What up, everybody? We're back yet again with a new campaign trail in 1940. Oh man, it's looking crazy. You got World War II just looming in the distance. Americans want to be isolationists. You got the Great Depression still going on. You got, talks of tariffs. And also, you got FDR going for a third term. What is he doing? We gotta stop him because what does he want to do? Be king? Can't have that. So let's read the synopsis. The election of 1940 opens in a cloud of uncertainty. As the Nazis march on France, the United States slowly crawls out of a years-long depression. Some voters are looking for a change, while others are enthusiastically loyal to the incumbent Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal. Roosevelt must overcome the stigma of running for a third term, consecutive term, Assange concerns about his foreign policy outlook, and defend the New Deal. Yeah, so talking about third terms, which presidents do you think could have won a third term? I'm thinking, let's exclude modern politics, so 2000 and up. I'm thinking Ulysses S. Grant could have gotten a third term, Andrew Jackson, Teddy Roosevelt, and can maybe say Grover Cleveland, maybe. But yeah, those are the guys who really stand out who could have won a third term. Willkie is a dark horse nominee and a prominent Republican internationalist who has never held elected office before. He hopes to revive his party's support with an energetic campaign. Yes, Wendell Willkie. He is an outsider. He's not a politician, and that's what the Republicans really needed at that time. You got to keep in mind, in 1940, the Republican Party is really, really not popular, obviously, with the whole Great Depression going on. So they needed an outsider. And Wendell Willkie, he's more so a Democrat than a Republican at the end of the day. He would brag about how liberal he was. He was a supporter of the New Deal, but he feels like some of it goes a little bit too far. Out of all the nominees that ran against FDR, so, Hoover, he's a sitting duck. Landon really failed to inspire. Thomas Dewey, he should have won 1948, but he threw the election. I'm thinking that Wendell Willkie was probably the best nominee they ran against FDR. So my strategy for this one, we got to win New York. We got to win the Northeast. I don't know how isolationist I want to be. We'll see. Anyway, Wendell Willkie. Wendell Willkie is a barefoot Wall Street lawyer who no one expected to take the Republican nomination. An outspoken internationalist, Willkie has won the hearts and minds of Republican voters with his articulate oratory skills and energetic enthusiasm. However, Willkie has never held elected office before, something that could concern experience-minded voters. In addition, Willkie is an ex-Democrat and a staple of the Republican establishment, something which is off-putting to many Midwestern conservatives. Willkie will have to win over his party's skeptical right flank and come from behind to defeat the popular Roosevelt. And that's another thing this touches on. Back then, you used to have, different flanks of each party. So for the Democratic Party, there would be a conservative wing and a liberal wing. So you can think of more of the conservatives are in the South, and more of the liberal wing of the Democratic Party is in the North. But of course, the Democratic Party, their whole identity at this point is the New Deal. In terms of the Republican Party, really up until I would say the 1980s, you have this flank of the Republican Party that's more so, what we call Rockefeller Republicans. And we still have some of these around, I think Vermont's governor is sort of like that. Charlie Baker is kind of like that. Oh yeah, but let's take on FDR. Let's see if we can beat him and our running mate. So I went through this and I tried to pick Thomas Dewey because that's who I really want, because I really want to win New York. But every time I try to do it, it glitches out and then it goes to Clinton and Booker for whatever weird reason. So unfortunately, and I tried it with Taft as well because I kind of want to try something new. I don't want to go with Charles McNary, but I guess we're going to have to go with Charles McNary. Charles McNary is the Republican Senate leader from Oregon who has survived the Roosevelt landslides. An old-school progressive Republican, McNary is a Western farm leader who has advocated for public power development and supported many New Deal programs. He also supports the Lend-Lease proposal. Picking McNary would also add experience to the ticket and would provide geographical balance to an East Wall Street lawyer like Willkie. Okay, let's do this. Oh yeah. Many voters, including some Democrats, are concerned about President Roosevelt's decision to run for a third consecutive term. What do you plan on saying to appeal to these voters? I wonder how much I want to attack him on that. I mean, it is pretty unprecedented, but there is no rule. Roosevelt has spent much of his presidency breaking norms and traditions. It is unbecoming of a president to run for a third consecutive term, and I won't hesitate to say it. We already have presidential term limits. They're called elections. I'd rather focus on the real issues. The thing is, I got to keep in mind, FDR is extremely popular. So I don't know how much I want to go on the attack. So we'll go with number 2, just for kind of a safe answer, just beginning. Advisors definitely feel as though you are leaving something on the table here. Many voters, in fact, are concerned about this issue. Okay, maybe I should attack him for it. What will your message be before the Republican National Convention? The New Deal has undermined our liberty and created a dictatorship of the executive. I will exorate Roosevelt for the waste and corruption he has created, and I will call for a return to clean, efficient, and healthy government. After 8 years of the New Deal, the people are ready for an outsider in government. I will call upon my supporters to turn the pages from the strife of the past decade and open our nation into a newer and brighter future. That's pretty good. And as a former Democrat, I can make the case for the Republican Party as one of pragmatism and moderation. I found liberty in the GOP, and I will call upon the American people to do the same. So we can play it really safe. We can be pretty aggressive. Or we can embrace that we're an outsider. I think we're going to embrace that we're an outsider in this situation. We want Willkie, no third term. And oof. All right, that's not looking good. Oh, man. I only got 68 electoral votes. Oh, God. Okay, so we're pretty much holding all the states that Willkie won, except for Indiana. So we want to win New York. New York is definitely within grasp. I'm pretty sure Willkie only lost New York in the actual election by like 3 points. Illinois looks like it's on the table. Can try to win all these northeastern states. Obviously, back then, no Republican is even going to be able to compete in the South. California, so yeah, we're going to start this off in New York. What will you say about your running mate, Senate Minority Leader Charles McNary? All right, so Charles McNary has spent his career fighting for farmers of this country. He will no doubt be a valuable asset in my administration. That is one key thing about this election. The urban-rural divide was pretty big. Willkie overwhelmingly won with northerner rural voters. Some voters are concerned that I don't have enough experience. Charles McNary has been in government for decades. That can kind of hurt, because we don't want, too much experience in government. We want, kind of a fresh face. After a contentious primary, it is important that we unite the party. As a Western isolationist and tariff man, Charles McNary does just that. Okay, we don't want to get too much into tariffs because, as we know, we got the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act that happened just 8 years ago. And that is not going to be a good look. So we'll talk about farmers. This is a good answer if you want to win back the farm vote in the Midwest. Okay. What will your campaign strategy be going into the fall? It's important we shore up support on the right. The New Deal has crushed innovation, enriched unions, and undermined our economy. No. With war clouds forming abroad, I will focus on foreign policy. Franklin Roosevelt's one-sided neutrality has left us vulnerable and only raises our chances of going to war. As a president, I will increase our preparedness and do everything possible to keep us out of war. Interesting. I won the primary as a moderate and a maverick, and I will campaign as such. I will criticize the New Deal for waste, inefficiency, and corruption, and I will promise to run it better. Okay. How's New York doing on foreign policy? Leans internationalist. Okay. Moderates, isolationist. So most of the Northeast, most of the North is isolationist. But we gotta win New York. So New York is a little bit internationalist. So, I will focus on the president himself from his attempt to pack the courts to run for a third term. Franklin Roosevelt has violated the synecdoche of our democracy time and time again. As an outsider and reformer, I will restore honor and dignity to the White House. All right, so all these are pretty decent answers. I don't think I want to really attack the New Deal too much. We can go for waste, inefficiency, and corruption. Kind of what the Republicans are talking about today. Yeah, let's go with that one. Let's see how it goes. It sounds like you're sticking to your guns in the general election, for better or for worse. Despite low enthusiasm from your party's right flank, you are certainly draw in a broad crowd with this strategy. Okay. That didn't really help, though. In fact, that kind of hurt. Ugh. Yeah, now we're losing Maine. We'll go to Illinois. How will you go about addressing President Roosevelt this fall? Throughout the past 8 years, I'll just call him FDR the entire time. That's easier. FDR has governed as a wannabe dictator. I will attack him relentlessly over his run for a third term and his disrespect for congressional authority. Despite animosity Roosevelt may have with the GOP, I actually like him a lot. No. FDR is still enormously popular. If we go on attack, it could backfire on us. We should instead focus on the Democrats as a whole. FDR bills himself as a voice for the working man, but he is a big puppet of big city union bosses. That's definitely not going to work because I'm a Wall Street lawyer. So we can call him a dictator, or we can just attack the Democratic Party as a whole. We're still pretty early on, though, so what would happen if I do call him a dictator? Is it really going to backfire that much? Oh, but then again, he is pretty popular, so it could backfire. But we're down by like over 300 electoral votes, so we got to take a risk. You do have a point in your attacks. Just make sure not to go overboard. Voters don't want to see such a harsh campaign. What will you say this fall about the economic recovery and, more broadly, the state of the economy? The economy is a major weakness for me and my party. Okay, no. And this second answer is kind of more so the same. We can also... Okay, so Roosevelt takes credit for the recovery, but it was also on his watch that the economy collapsed again in 1937. I will not hesitate to attack him over this. Yeah, we'll do that. Or we can... Okay, no, this other option. The economy is a major weakness for me and my party. I don't want to mention the Depression, but I will instead talk more broadly about my plans to grow the economy through the power of the free market. Maybe we'll go with this one instead. Let's see. This is probably the best way to handle the economic situation. Voters still blame the GOP for the Depression to begin with. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to kind of shake that off. That's the thing. It's really in people's recent memory. So, yeah. We got 82 electoral votes. So it seems like we're kind of, cemented right here. And we're winning Iowa. Wisconsin, we definitely have a chance. Okay, Illinois, we're doing all right. So we are closing the gap a little bit. So doing all right. It seems like me calling him a dictator actually kind of worked out. So let's be a little aggressive. Let's go to Illinois. 29 electoral votes. You have professed basic support for the New Deal, but criticize it for being inefficient and wasteful. Conservatives are suspicious of your stance, while Democrats don't trust you. Care to elaborate on your position here? Okay. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Under no circumstances will I support a rollback of the New Deal. I only seek to pass sensible, market-based reforms that will improve the efficiency of these programs. Anything else is a Democratic talking point. That sounds like something he actually said. We cannot afford to alienate the right any further. I will stress that my calls for efficiency mean a rollback of the New Deal, so that's going to backfire tremendously because it's super popular right now. Roosevelt loves to talk a big game about economic security. So did Adolf Hitler, and so did Benito Mussolini, and all dictators of the world who promise economic security in exchange for their freedom. The people of those countries got security, all right? But at what cost? Okay, this is going way too far. So we'll just take the safe answer on that one. Conservatives are disappointed in your response, but all things considered, this is a safer answer. Moderates are reassured by your statement. Do you have anything to say regarding the passage last year of the Reorganization Act, which, among other things, created the Executive Office of the President? All right. This bill is just one more step towards dictatorship of the executive. The new powers afforded to the executive office are vulnerable to misuse. And this bill defies the principle of separation of powers. I oppose this law. I support the premise behind this law, but I simply believe it's too expensive as a bill. As president, I will sign another law to curb some of the new powers afforded to the office of the president. Yeah, so one thing you got to realize is that a lot of FDR's agenda had trouble getting through. So he had, he pretty much forced it through. I won't be mentioning this bill much in my campaign. This is eventually something I agree with. This is actually something I agree with the president on. As I've said before, it is important we have efficiency in the government. Okay, so we're not going to go with these two options. So I support the premise, or we'll be firmly against it. So we can take a moderate stance or just be firm. I think we're going to be firm on this one. We'll be against it. You've echoed many concerns of your party's conservative wing. This pleases the GOP base, but the GOP base isn't that big at this point. So really hasn't moved much. We're losing our home state, so that's not good. And we're also losing Colorado, so we don't want to lose anything that we already have. The last major New Deal legislation that was passed was the Fair Labor Standards Act, which outlawed child labor, established a federal minimum wage, and mandated extra overtime pay, among other things. Did you support this act? And would you support further legislation on this issue in your third term? I mean, it's going to be pretty hard to come out against that. That's the thing, especially with the Great Depression. I actually supported this act. For too long, businesses have cut corners in their operations, and working people have paid the price. This is a sensible piece of legislation that corrects the industrial abuses of the past, and I'm glad to see it got passed. Man, our conservatives and the Republican Party are going to be angry about that one. I'll probably go with that answer, though. This law was drafted with good intentions, but truthfully, I think it goes too far. These stringent wage requirements and labor restrictions will only serve to hamper our economic recovery when we can at least afford it. I mean, this is also a pretty good answer. I did not support this bill one bit, or we're just not going to address it. Well, I think, let's just say we support it. What's going to happen? This bill is an anathema to many in your party. On the other hand, you gain a bit with urban workers in the Midwest, and we do need those urban votes. The reason why FDR won New York was pretty much because Willkie couldn't get that urban vote. One of Roosevelt's most ambitious New Deal projects, the Tennessee Valley Authority, oversaw a major expansion of federal electric power in the Tennessee Valley. As a utility executive, you have spent much of your recent career attacking this program. How you adjust the TVA in your campaign this fall? I mean, does it really matter? Because I'm never going to win Tennessee, so we can just say we're opposed. I may have opposed the TVA in the past, but we've seen the benefits that have come from the much-needed rural electrification it has brought. I will promise to upkeep the TVA in my administration. I don't want to seem like a flip-flopper, though. That's the thing. I oppose the TVA because I believe it's the wrong solution for rural electrification. Government should work with the private sector, not against it. In my administration, I will instead pursue subsidies and tax credits for rural electricity development. I mean, at least that's giving like a solution to it. I oppose the TVA because I believe this kind of intervention in our economy is wrong. We need to create good conditions for stable energy market, and the TVA is a step in the wrong direction. Okay, so either 2 or 3. I think number 2, because we actually offer a solution. This is a good response if you want to appeal to a wide variety of voters without walking back on your statements. Okay, so we kind of cemented our base, which is looking good. But we're not really flipping any FDR states. And that's kind of our big problem. New York is a constant 5-point gap. We're within striking distance of Illinois. We can compete in Minnesota. Let's go to Minnesota. Why not? Throughout the past 8 years, the Civilian Conservation Corps, or the so-called Tree Army, has consistently been one of the most popular New Deal programs. Will you be addressing the CCC in your campaign this fall? The CCC has put millions of decent young men to work revitalizing our natural resources and infrastructure. I support the president's policy in this theater. I think this is one of the biggest problems with this election, is that you got an insanely popular incumbent, and you got these policies that basically like 60% of the American people support, and just running against that or campaigning against that, it's just not a good look. This kind of pointless welfare program has been paying young men to dig holes. What kind of logic is that? Besides, with the ongoing war in Europe, the last thing we should be doing is spending money on these kind of handouts. So that's definitely not going to work. The Civilian Conservation Corps is certainly popular, and I'm glad for the young men who have earned a living through the program. But with storm clouds brewing in Europe, I don't think investing in this agency is a good idea. Do we want to take that stance? How's Illinois on? They're leaning isolationist. So I don't think we got a chance in Pennsylvania, but all these other states, though, it's really, really hard to, how am I going to tackle the war thing? Because everyone wants, my key base wants to be isolationist, but some of these big states are more internationalist, like New York. So we'll take a kind of, tepid approach to this one. Good hedge. The CCC is enormously popular, but your party doesn't want to publicly endorse it. I think that might hurt me, though. I hope it doesn't. Last year, the president signed into law an amendment to the Neutrality Act that allowed for the sale of arms to belligerents on a cash and carry basis. Some isolationists in your party oppose this move. How do you feel about this bill? Our first line of defense against war with Germany is the British, and I'm happy we signed this law into act. But President Roosevelt is correct in his support for the sale of military goods without the need for cash. I will advocate to the American people for such a policy. President Roosevelt's one-sided neutrality only serves to increase our risk of war. I oppose this policy, and I will oppose any policy going forward that threatens our neutrality. Our best defense against war with Germany is the British. They need all the help they can get, and I'm happy President Roosevelt introduced the sale of much-needed military equipment to our allies across the Atlantic. It's going to make me seem so weak, though. That's the problem. I don't want to seem like, oh, yeah, I like what FDR is doing. I'm a Republican. We could take the isolationist stance. Because Illinois, we're much closer distance of getting Illinois. And these states, we have a real chance of getting them. I think New York is getting a little bit out of the question, but we can maybe make gains in these isolationist states. So let's see what happens when we oppose it. This answer pleases the isolationists in your party. So how are we doing now? Okay, that did help us. Minnesota seems like it's getting a little further away. But New York is about the same. So let's go to Illinois. We have a real chance of getting Illinois. Last month, France fell to the Nazis and Germany took control of the country. Now the UK stands alone against Nazi Germany. What will you do as president to deal with Nazi aggression in Europe? Oh no. I am shocked and dismayed by the collapse of France in the face of German aggression. We must remain vigilant against any threats to U.S. neutrality, and as president, I will do just that. I am shocked and dismayed by the collapse of France in the face of German aggression. I will send my regards to the British in their fight with oppression, and I will voice my support for the cash and carry policy. I am shocked and dismayed by the collapse of France in the face of German aggression. I will voice my support for a build-up of our military and our preparedness. We must be vigilant against any foreign aggression. I mean, I think the best response to be is like, okay, we're going to stay neutral, but if we have to get dragged in, then we should build up our military. How many good people have to fall to the Nazi dictatorship before we do something? Enough is enough. I will support for a more direct military aid to the British. We can no longer safely isolate ourselves from the rest of the world. So that's something that people really don't want right now. So we'll send our regards. I think that's all. Well, actually, no, I don't want to voice my support for that. We'll just take kind of a quiet approach. But then again, I think building up the military just in case, because even if everyone's going to be an isolationist, I think people hopefully would be smart enough to know that, hey, there is a way we might get dragged into this. This is a solid response that will help you appeal to internationalists and isolationists alike. All right, pretty good. Just lately, a coalition of interventionists have proposed the creation of a peacetime military draft. Would you support the establishment of such a policy? Probably not. A military draft would certainly help increase our preparedness, but such a blanket recruitment could risk further aggression by foreign powers. I support this bill, but only with reservations on who is eligible to sign up and how many new recruits we enlist. The idea of a peacetime draft in this country is unprecedented. President Roosevelt has no reason to recruit our boys into military service unless he plans to take us to war. I oppose this bill, so we're probably going to have to come out against this. We want to be the isolationist candidate. Despite desperate times call for desperate measures, having a well-staffed military will increase our preparedness and will deter hostile powers from launching any acts of aggression against us. I mean, this is also good, though. But it is a difficult one. Because obviously, if we're going to start a draft, it's kind of, saying like, yeah, we're probably going to head to war. And we don't want to be that guy. So, oh man, this is difficult though, because we kind of know what's going to happen. How are we looking right now? We'll be against it. Isolationists are pleased with this response, but most moderates are not. Oh, God. Okay, it didn't really hurt us. Okay, it hurt us a little bit. We're not losing any more states. But we're not flipping any states, and that's kind of a problem. Let's go to New York. Roosevelt's so-called court-picking debacle from 3 years ago is still in the minds of many voters. How do you plan on addressing this in your campaign? We need to go after him. I will talk about this issue, but only in conjunction with other examples of Roosevelt's executive dictatorship, such as his run for a third term. I think this is a good way to remind voters of Roosevelt's weaknesses. Roosevelt's court packing is old news, or the court packing plan is a real weakness for Roosevelt. I will attack him relentlessly on it. What president thinks he can usurp the power of the judiciary and undermine the separation of powers? So either one or three. Do I really want to go as far to call him a dictator? Or do we just want to be a little bit moderate on this one? I mean, we're not flipping any states right now, so let's not be safe. Let's just call him a dictator. Let's go all in. This is a good way for you to loop in the court packing debacle with other Roosevelt controversies. In light of the Germans' notoriously harsh treatment of Jews, many European Jews have sought refuge in the States, bringing the immigration restrictions passed by President Coolidge into question. Will you call for any reform of the immigration quotas for European Jews? Okay. Now this is where it's going to get really interesting, because if we turn them away, it's going to look pretty bad. When we take them all in, people don't want more immigration. So this is going to be a really hard question. Okay. These immigration restrictions go against every democratic ideal our nation holds near and dear. There are many vulnerable people the world over who look to the U.S. for salvation. I will support any effort to help them. My sympathies go out to all who seek refuge from oppression, but I'm not sure it's a good idea to push for this. Most Americans, especially those in my party, are opposed to letting more immigrants in, particularly the Jews from Europe. Yeah, this is going to be a big problem. I have sympathy for the plight of European Jews, but isolationist sentiment is too strong to lose. I do, however, support the Wagner-Rogers bill for the settlement of Jewish children. At the very least, the youngest immigrants should be allowed a chance. Okay. I have sympathy for the plight of European Jews, but isolationist sentiment is too strong for us to do this. I instead support Harold Ike's plan from 2 years ago. We should loosen restrictions on Jewish immigration, but only if they settle in Alaskan territories. Oh my God. Okay, so a bit of a touchy question. I'll say, hey, we can let the children in. I think that this is probably the safest response we could possibly do. I don't see how this can hurt me. This is a good alternative solution to the refugee problem, and this helps you come across as compassionate without alienating your base. Hell yeah. Ugh. Okay, those last two questions hurt us quite a bit. We're not looking good. Is it really a fruitless effort to go against FDR? Well, let's go to Michigan because we don't want to lose any states that Willkie actually won. There has been non-stop radio coverage lately of German Luftwaffe's, sorry for butchering that, bombing campaign in Britain. How do you respond to this? Oh, God. This new development will only galvanize public support for the Allies. I will call on President Roosevelt to invite internationalist Republicans into his cabinet so that our party may have a say in foreign policy as well. I think what's happening right now is that we're trying to be isolationist, but people kind of see the writing on the wall. And they basically view it as inevitable that we're going to get sucked into this war. This new development will only galvanize public support for the Allies. I will call on a full agreement on military aid to the UK. We must be able to provide support to the British without having one hand tied behind our backs. This new development will only galvanize the isolationist sentiment. I will speak of the need to remain vigilant against my own against any involvement in the European war. This new development has horrified me to my core. I will continue to profess support for the Allied cause and for the cash and carry program. All right, there's really no good answer that we can do on this. We'll call for some Republicans in this cabinet, which is probably not going to happen. This is a good proactive step that allows you to show your commitment to bipartisanship. President Roosevelt has criticized you for your association with Wall Street, and Secretary of Interior Harold Ikes has even mocked you as a simple barefoot lawyer from Wall Street. Many working people have thrown rotten fruit and eggs at you as you've campaigned. How do you plan on responding to these attacks? Well, that's pretty rude. How dare they? Roosevelt has a point in what he's saying. My work is on Wall Street and not very popular. Oh my God, hell no. We need to turn the tables on Roosevelt. I will accuse him of being in the pockets of corrupt political machines and unscrupulous union bosses. Okay, that's also not going to work. I can't for the life of me understand why being a barefoot Wall Street lawyer is such a bad thing. I am a hardworking outsider, untainted by the backroom dealings of Washington, and I proudly proclaim it. Here we go. This is a good response. Good comeback. You've taken a negative trait and turned it into a positive one. As an outsider, this could feed your popularity. Nothing's changed. Oh man, 44 electoral votes. It's not looking good. And now we're kind of on the defense, and I really didn't want to be on the defense. Where did I go wrong? Illinois, let's go. The Japanese, in their quest for dominance of the Pacific, have come under fire for such things as the USS Panay incident and their brutal treatment of Chinese civilians in Nanking. Will you issue any statement this fall condemning Japanese actions in the Pacific theater? The atrocities we've seen the Japanese commit in the Eastern theater are an abomination unto mankind. I will call for greater military aid to the embattled Chinese the same way we've provided aid to the British. I mean, I guess we kind of have to at this point. This is just kind of getting out of control. The atrocities we've seen the Japanese commit in the Eastern theater are an abomination unto mankind. I've stood opposed to Japanese imperialism for years now, and I stand opposed today. Okay, we have a proven record. We can maybe go with this one. It isn't prudent to address issues that are a few years old. Okay, so we'll just say we're against the Japanese. Of course, this issue is a little stale now, but by taking a strong stance, you certainly won a moral victory. Oh, I hope. How are we looking? Yeah, it's looking okay. Throughout the past 8 years, President Roosevelt's pursued a so-called good neighbor policy in Latin America to create better relations in the region. Just recently, he has called for a better cultural understanding of Latin America as well. Do you support his actions here, or will you continue this policy in your administration? So Latin America is not a particularly important issue in this campaign. I won't be making mention of Roosevelt's actions here. In light of aggression we are seeing in Europe, I don't think it's prudent to try to involve ourselves with Latin America. As president, I will scale back these activities and reassert American autonomy. This policy has allowed for us to achieve cooperation and harmony with our neighbors to the south. I will continue Roosevelt's good neighbor policy, and I will promote a Pan-Americanism in my administration. I mean, that's okay. So, I mean, all three of these, I don't really think they're either going to hurt or help me, so we'll just try to bring it a little bit farther. Nelson Rockefeller of New York, a Republican, has been tapped into the Roosevelt administration for this policy. Voicing your support can't hurt. And Rockefeller is really, really popular, so it actually could work out for us. Okay. We're looking good in Wisconsin. That helped us quite a bit, but we can't get New York, man. Man. Let's go to Illinois, though. We have a way bigger chance of winning Illinois than New York. Tensions have been quietly simmering between the U.S. and Mexico over the past few years, especially in regards to Mexican nationalization of oil and appropriation of U.S.-owned agricultural land. How will you address this feud, if at all, in your campaign? So we got an anti-Catholic sentiment from the Mexican government, which isn't good because you got Catholics in the Northeast, and we need to do good in the Northeast. So I think it's best to kind of stay neutral on this one. We're just not going to address it. At the very least, Roosevelt seems to agree with you. Just recently, Roosevelt received a bump in the polls for signing the Destroyers for Bases Agreement. The British exchanged military base rights in the Caribbean for the transfer of 50 U.S. warships. Do you support Roosevelt's actions here? I mean, he got a poll bump, so I guess we kind of have to support it. I do support this agreement, but it doesn't change the fact that it defies our Neutrality Acts and is a symbolic gesture anyway. I will, however, meet in private with Prime Minister Churchill to express my support for their cause. This policy openly defies Neutrality Acts, and as such would only risk inviting aggression from Axis powers. We're already selling military goods to the British. Roosevelt actions here only further risk our involvement in the European war. We must show the British that we are willing to support their cause and the cause for democracy the world throughout. I support Roosevelt's actions here, so we'll meet with Churchill. Advisors feel that you are leaving something on the table here, but Churchill is nonetheless thankful for your support. Okay, so our states are getting a little bit more cemented. This is the actual map, but we got a chance at Illinois. I want Illinois. Illinois and Wisconsin I would like. Let's go. Come on. We can do this. Many conservative Republicans in Congress and in the Republican National Committee are suspicious of your campaign. Oh my God, guys, you want to win or you want to lose? Get behind me. The idea that I should try to make nice with these reactionary legislators is ridiculous. Their ideas are archaic and deeply unpopular to most Americans. I won't make any attempt to compromise my values for these people. I will appeal to our common opposition of Franklin Roosevelt. We both stand opposed to his disrespect of our liberty and our democracy. Our differences on other minor issues simply shouldn't matter as much. I am just as committed to the free market as they are. That's probably not going to work. Sure, we have some different ideas on a few issues here and there, but we both believe in the power of American capitalism. It's best to stay quiet on this issue, lest we risk offending either one of our party. Should we play it safe? Yes, play it safe. There's nothing wrong with staying quiet on this matter. Roosevelt has pursued a military buildup as part of his arsenal of democracy strategy. How do you feel about this policy? How are we looking? Well, I think the map is kind of seizing up at this point. I'm glad that Roosevelt has increased our preparedness. Roosevelt's intentions here are clear. He has every desire to take us into war abroad. Okay, so I'm glad that Roosevelt has increased our preparedness, but this is something I've supported for months now. It is clear he has pursued this policy for transparent political gain. Yeah, well, we'll do that one. This is a good way for you to attack Roosevelt without abandoning your internationalism. I think that kind of hurt. Yep, I think that kind of sealed it up for us. So we'll go to Illinois, and then we'll campaign in that region for the end of it. So, yeah. We'll go to the Midwest, and let's see how it goes. Are we going to do better than the real-life Wendell Willkie, or did I kind of blow it? I couldn't get New York. I just couldn't. So, let's see the results come in. Oh, man. At one point, I was looking pretty good. Like, Wisconsin was within reach. But I don't think I played my cards right on this one. So he's got Kentucky. The solid South is going to come in really fast, obviously. You know, back then, if you guys don't know, the solid South would go like 90% Democrat. Like South Carolina. Almost 100%. Craziness. We got Vermont. Pretty good. So, yeah, he's going to get New York. I want to try to get... Okay, we got Indiana. So, I don't want to lose... Oh, we already lost. Oh, my God. So, maybe we can pull off Illinois. I'd be very happy if we could do that. Because it was within grasp. But I think we're more or less going to get the actual election map. Michigan's probably going to be really close, though. Maine is taking a long time, too. So he's got New York. Damn. All right. He's got Wisconsin. Yep. Oh, we lost pretty badly. We got Michigan, we got Maine, so we held all our own states. Can we get Illinois? That is the big question. Can we get it? Come on, give me it. Come on, do it. Come on. Come on. Give me Illinois, please. Put a lot of resources there. Come on, do it. Come on. It's the last state. Oh, my God. Probably the closest state, too. Well, we didn't do any better than the real-life Wendell Willkie. Is it a fruitless effort to go up against FDR? Probably. But let's go to the final results. Sorry you lost the 1940 election. It's always going to be hard to beat an incumbent, especially one as popular as FDR. Your one consolation is that your leadership in the GOP may have just saved the British. It appears President Roosevelt could have enough support for his Lend-Lease proposal after all. Your political trajectory is uncertain right now. You still hold no elected office. Perhaps you could run for a position in Indiana as the official leader of your party and advocate for loyal opposition. Perhaps President Roosevelt could ask you in his government. One little tidbit, though, is that FDR and Willkie actually had talks behind the scenes after the election of forming a liberal party. Now, obviously, that never ended up happening. Willkie died, and then soon after, FDR died in 1945, pretty sure. So that never ended up happening. But let's look at the results. Closest state. So Illinois, 4,000 votes. Oh my God. I was close. I was really close. Next closest state, Maine, Indiana, Wisconsin. We could have had Wisconsin. We could have had Illinois. But other than those two states, it really wasn't looking too good. How about New York? Yeah, so a 4-point spread in New York. Ugh, not good enough. But anyway, we couldn't prevent a third term. FDR becomes a third termer. Oh, man. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this and a little bit of history Other fun fact about Wendell Willkie, he was a strong advocate for civil rights. He would go to NAACP events quite often. So, yeah, he's a pretty good guy all around. But anyway, we lost. I'm going to cry about it tonight. But hopefully you guys enjoyed, and more videos coming soon.